Hello, I'm Rick Brandt, the Chief Commercial Officer at Berlin Packaging, the world's largest hybrid packaging supplier of rigid products, and I'd like to welcome you to the Spotlight series. In the next 30 minutes, you'll hear from two of Berlin Packaging's experts about the latest trends impacting the spirits market. Things like sustainability and e-commerce and how your spirits business, no matter how large or small, can capitalize on these trends. First up, we'll hear from Berlin Packaging's Director of Market Research and Consumer Insights, Maura Stein. Maura has helped some of the largest consumer packaged goods companies to identify emerging trends in their respective markets and successfully incorporate these trends to build their brands. Maura is going to share 5 important macro trends that are shaping the global spirits market now and how they'll continue to impact the market in 2022 and beyond. Building on Maura's insights will be Scott Jost, Berlin Packaging's Vice President of Innovation and Design. Scott has literally transformed the packaging industry over his 30-year career. Along with his team of world-class packaging engineers and brand designers, he has helped companies of all sizes, from the world's largest CPG companies to startups, earn millions of dollars by creating brands and designing packages that not only stand out on the shelf, but actually improve the consumer's quality of life. So with that said, let's get started. I hope you enjoy this brief but yet informative session. Take it away, Maura.
Thanks, Rick, and thank you all for joining us today. We're really excited to share what we see happening in the spirits category this year and beyond. Obviously, COVID-19 has had a huge impact over the last 18 months, and it continues to play a role this year as people begin returning to really what's a new normal. As we dig into the latest spirits trends, we're going to talk about some of those lasting pandemic factors, as well as other things influencing consumer attitudes and purchase behaviors this year. So let's get started. As Rick mentioned, we've identified 5 big themes that are shaping the category, and the first one we're going to discuss is the importance for brands to be socially responsible. In many ways, the pandemic really brought out the best in society. The last year, we've seen people rallying around their local communities and small businesses, companies donating food, goods, and services to frontline workers, distilleries pitching in by using their facilities to make hand sanitizer, and more. And there's a desire to see these types of things continue. As the pandemic begins to wane, consumers are really looking for brands to build back better and not focus just on profits, but to continue thinking about people and planet. So one element of being socially responsible is using sustainable practices. I know sustainability seems to be a buzzword these days. It's something we hear everyone talking about, from businesses to the media, and there's a reason. Consumers care about the environment now more than ever, and they expect businesses to as well. There was actually a Nielsen study that came out a couple years ago that showed 81% of consumers believe companies are responsible for helping the environment. And beyond that, many people are willing to make their own personal trade-offs to help make a difference. This includes changing their habits and behaviors, considering new brands that are more eco-friendly, even if it's not a name brand that they're used to purchasing, and paying more for sustainable products. A recent Boston Consulting Group study showed that 3 out of 4 consumers are willing to pay more for products with sustainable attributes, and a big part of that can be sustainable packaging. In the spirit space, we're seeing some companies pledging to eliminate single-use plastic. Others, like Absolut and Johnnie Walker, are exploring paper bottles. Mermaid Gin is a brand that's using fully sustainable packaging, not only their glass bottle, but also an all-natural cork, wooden top, and instead of plastic, they're actually using a paper-based neck seal. They also piloted a refill program at their distillery to encourage local customers to refill and reuse their bottles, which is another big trend we're seeing across categories. But when it comes to packaging, understanding which solutions are truly sustainable is not always an easy task and not always what you would expect. And I'd like to turn it over to Scott to talk more about that.
Thanks, Moira. I'm glad you shared the paper bottle because it's emblematic of the challenges we all face in creating truly sustainable packaging offerings. On the one hand, consumers' hearts are in the right place, and the value-action gap between what consumers say and do is finally narrowing. They're upweighting the perception of sustainability in their decisions, and Gen Z and millennials have a relatively high inelastic demand for eco-friendly products. That said, perception doesn't always line up with reality, and consumers are applying more and more scrutiny to sustainability claims. As an example, common wisdom may lead us to believe that paper packaging is an eco-friendlier substitute for a glass or PET container, but across several quantifiable measures, that's often not the case. First, with the exception of a handful of cutting-edge niche packaging applications, the paper in most paper bottles does not actually contain the product. Most paper bottles are actually an assembly of multiple components, some of which are recyclable and some of which are not. And in some of the more egregious examples we've seen, there's simply a layer of unnecessary cosmetic packaging. Along with an increase in eco-friendly product claims, there's been an increase in the number and aggressiveness of watchdog groups who are calling attention to greenwashing, whether intentional or as a consequence of poorly defined claims. For all of these reasons, we advocate for a more holistic approach to sustainability, basing material and process decisions on an understanding of the target brand, its product category, and the needs and preferences of its consumers. Armed with a full cradle-to-grave life cycle analysis, brand owners can not only quantify the positive environmental impacts of their packaging, but also state those improvements in equivalencies that consumers understand, such as reductions in water use, energy consumption, and transportation impacts.
So we talked about taking care of the planet, but another aspect of being socially responsible is taking care of people. And this can include supporting different causes and communities through social initiatives. We know today's consumers want to support brands that align with their values, and people are more connected than ever and really familiar with what companies are doing to help society. They're following businesses on social media, researching brands online, and they really want to hear from companies about their community-based initiatives. We talked earlier about distilleries who are making hand sanitizer when it was in the height of the pandemic and in really high demand. That's one example. Regimental Spirits is another. They're a veteran-owned company that donates a part of their proceeds to various military and veteran community programs. This is actually a package that the studio designed, and you'll see with every element from the bottle's canteen shape to the patriotic graphics, we're really communicating that brand's military-inspired mission. Flor de Cana is another example. They're actually the world's first spirit to be fair trade certified. So they're dedicated to using ethical practices and creating fair and honest partnerships with the communities that they work with to produce their product. So those are just a few examples of different ways that spirits brands can show their commitment to community. The last thing we're going to talk about related to being socially responsible is the idea of showcasing your brand's regional roots. The pandemic resulted in consumers wanting to support local businesses, and in addition to the desire of supporting their local communities, consumers actually trust products with local connections. They think that they're healthier, more authentic, and better quality than non-local alternatives. So talking about your brand's unique story with regard to ingredient sourcing or using regional resources or giving back to local communities can be really important in making those connections with consumers. Fid Street is a great example of a brand with a really compelling local story. It's actually the only gin made in Hawaii, and they're wanting to expand to the mainland and really leverage that regional story to reach a broader audience. This is another custom package designed by the studio, and the design is really meant to evoke a sense of the island. So we're using a beautiful turquoise color, rippled effect that suggests the ocean. So finding ways to tell an authentic story and promote those local and regional attributes can be really important for today's brands. The next thing we're going to talk about are the changes in how and where consumers are purchasing and enjoying their liquor. The COVID-19 pandemic has created a new normal when it comes to where consumers shop, the way they shop, what they're buying, and for spirits in particular, where they're socializing and enjoying their cocktails. And these new behaviors are expected to continue even past the pandemic as consumers now really appreciate all of the new conveniences of things like online shopping, curbside pickup, and delivery. And they're also really enjoying the accessibility of enjoying high-quality spirits and cocktails at home. One area that we all know has seen huge growth across categories, including spirits, is the e-commerce channel. This was growing pre-COVID, and the pandemic really pushed it into overdrive. There's more availability and awareness than ever around purchasing alcohol online. IWSR estimates that the value of alcohol e-commerce increased by 42% this year, with 44% of American shoppers starting to buy online in 2020 compared to only 19% in 2019. And this rise in e-commerce is shifting the role and importance of packaging. Obviously, there are additional functional considerations due to shipping and handling, but beyond that, it's no longer just about standing out at a traditional retail shelf, but breaking through on screen. So you need to think about things like, how will the package and branding perform online? How well will it display on a white background? What will it look like when reduced to a thumbnail image? Scott, I'd love for you to talk more about how the studio is designing with e-commerce in mind.
Absolutely, Maura. You know, I've been in this business long enough to have seen the arc of packaging's e-commerce journey. By the end of the 90s, common wisdom was that CPG packaging was destined for early retirement. Because store shelves were going the way of the dinosaur, packaging would simply be relegated to the lowest cost system to move product from factory to consumer and would play little to no role in the brand experience. Well, try telling that to the 22 million people who watched an iPhone unboxing video on YouTube. What we know today is that CPG packaging didn't retire. Instead, its job description has changed and it's been given a promotion. So how did that happen? Well, instead of moving smoothly through well-established supply chains and lining up like soldiers on retail shelves, FMCG products fulfilled via e-commerce channels are subjected to impacts, temperature swings, and other indignities that test packaging's protective qualities. In fact, the average retail product is touched 5 times before a consumer's first interaction, whereas the same product's e-commerce counterpart will be handled over 20 times. Now, we've always relied on packaging to be a brand emissary, but in a retail context, a scuffed, collapsed, or leaking package might be pruned out of the planogram before a consumer ever sees it. The stakes in e-commerce are much, much higher. A package that leaks in transit, even if the leak was due to being thrown in a shipper next to a bag of nails before being drop-kicked onto a recipient's front porch, the package will be blamed for the failure, and the supplier will be charged with the cost of returning all of the shipped items, and with a click of their mouse, that consumer can share their brand dissatisfaction with thousands of potential customers. Now, I realize what I'm describing here is a pretty daunting scenario, but just as with sustainability, we place a great deal of emphasis on robust life cycle analyses and rigidly defined performance targets. As one of the first packaging suppliers to earn membership in Amazon's Packaging Support and Supplier Network, also known as APAS, and as subject matter consultants to the Sustainable Packaging Coalition's Shipping Liquids Collaborative, we've helped define some of the standards by which e-commerce packaging is judged today, and we regularly help our clients navigate the performance and testing protocols required by the biggest e-commerce players.
In addition to an increase in online purchasing, we also saw a rise in off-premise spirits consumption over the last year and a half. The category was hugely affected by the shutting down of bars and restaurants brought on by the pandemic, and this created a need for consumers to find new ways to socialize, and they began creating the bar experience at home. This growth of off-premise enjoyment was on the rise pre-pandemic, as seen with the increase of ready-to-drink cocktails, and became even more relevant and prevalent with COVID-19. A Nielsen study showed prepared cocktails to go accelerated a staggering 171% in early 2020, and there's really no signs of that slowing down anytime soon. Design plays a big role here as well, creating a unique and premium experience while adding at-home and sometimes on-the-go convenience. On the Rocks is a great example. Instead of utilizing cans or generic bottles for their ready-to-drink cocktails, the studio created a custom package that was designed to feel premium and recreate a cocktail experience similar to what you'd get at the bar. So you can see the beautiful colored liquid inside. It pours out as if from a traditional spirits bottle, and the product line has been hugely successful. They actually doubled their sales in the first half of 2020. Beam bought them last fall and is in the works to release even more products for the portfolio. Our next macro trend focuses on individuality and expression. Today's consumers feel empowered to express themselves and no longer feel the need to conform to traditional norms. And the idea of individuality is even more attainable now with so many diverse options available for consumers. Products and brands are considered a form of self-expression, and the highly social nature of alcohol consumption makes the concepts of image and expression especially relevant in the spirits category. We spoke a little bit earlier today about how consumers are even more informed about the brands that they associate with themselves with, and they're choosing brands that allow them to express who they are and what they believe in. One big trend capitalizing on this theme is the rise of personalized and customized products. Consumers increasingly expect brands to tailor products, experiences, content, and marketing to their own specific needs and interests. And we're seeing this across categories, including personal care, food, and beverages. Think about Coca-Cola Freestyle machines that let consumers mix their own soft drink, or the Share a Coke campaign that used personalized labels. That campaign actually saw sales grow by 19% in its first year. And spirits brands are following suit. Johnnie Walker Blue Label offers custom engraved bottles. Cambridge Gin Lab in the UK lets consumers not only mix their own cocktails, but also make their own gin. And allowing consumers to participate in the creation process creates an emotional connection and a sense of satisfaction. These types of personalized products can also add value and relevance. Another trend related to this power of individual expression is gender neutrality. We know today gender lines are getting blurred and old stereotypes are being rejected, and this is true within the spirits category as well. Companies are successfully appealing to both men and women by throwing out antiquated assumption of what each one wants to drink. This is presenting itself through brand messaging, like Heineken's 2020 global ad campaign that challenged the notion that beer is just for men. Also through design. There's a bar in London named Burger and Lobster that introduced a gender-neutral cocktail menu that uses numbered names and colorless drinks. This kind of builds upon the Don't Pink My Drink campaign, where women are rejecting the notion that they only enjoy pink cocktails. And I love this quote by the managing director of Jim Beam. Things are really shifting away from this historic assumptions around who spirits consumers are and what they must be drinking. We know that today's consumers are looking for unique experiences and want to experiment with novel and unusual flavors, especially younger consumers. This can include innovative flavor formulations, unique ingredients, and unexpected combinations. And that's what this next trend is really all about. We're seeing more extreme craft products entering the market, taking things to the next level beyond what has already been done. As the craft movements become more mainstream, trend-conscious connoisseurs are looking for products with even more uniqueness and differentiation. But it's not just about using unusual flavors for the sake of it or because they're trending. These unique products should really underscore the value of ingredient specificity and have a compelling backstory that details why the new ingredients were used and how they add to a great taste and experience. Consumers can perceive these rare products with a unique provenance or heritage as being higher quality. Combining something unique with something familiar can also appeal to consumers, balancing comfort and reliability, which can be especially important within spirits, with creativity. I'd love for Scott to come back in to talk more about the role of packaging in creating these unique and novel experiences.
Thanks, Maura. I really love the theme that you're capturing here because it speaks to an essential component of spirits branding, and that's storytelling. When we think of our experiences with memorable brands, the lattice work that holds the sensory components of those memories together is storytelling and context, and packaging plays a key role in both. Think about it for a moment. The fidelity with which we can reconstruct the exact scent and taste of the best spirit we've ever had is somewhat limited, but we'll almost certainly remember the story our bartender told us about the provenance, the form, the colors and textures of the package it was served from, the totality of the experience. That's the power of storytelling and context. A great spirits packaging design process starts by understanding the target brand's story in infinitesimal detail, isolating the most unique or memorable components of that story, amplifying them, and imparting them into the package via as many sensory touch points as possible. A great example of this is our work on the Heaven's Door brand. The Bootleg series stands as a testament to Bob Dylan's artistic genius, with each volume featuring one of Dylan's paintings on a handmade ceramic bottle, all housed within a leather-bound display case. Before the fortunate owner of this prized collectible ever tastes the bourbon inside, we've scripted a feast for their other four senses. Every detail, from the sound of the metal snaps to the tactile details of the leather embossments, even the aroma of the tight-grained wood interior, is inspired by some aspect of the Bootleg brand story. In fact, storytelling and context is so powerful here that many will buy a Bootleg volume simply for the joy of owning it and displaying it as a collectible.
Thanks, Scott. Another trend that ties to this novel and experiential theme is augmented and virtual reality. Smart technology can be an effective way to engage with consumers and create unique interactive experiences. AR can help consumers learn more about a product or company through demos, virtual tours, and brand stories. Over 1 in 3 millennials say that how digitally advanced or smart a product is actually influences their purchase decision. McQueen recently launched the UK's first fully augmented reality range of gins. By scanning the label via the dedicated McQueen Gin app, each bottle showcases the hidden inner secrets of McQueen Gin with a unique full-length animation. It also includes information on the local area and the exciting ingredients and flavors that you'll find in each bottle. So finding unique ways to connect with consumers and create unexpected experiences is a great way to stand out from the competition. The final theme we're going to talk about today is the role of health and wellness in the spirit space. Consumer focus on health has been on the uptick for a while, and the rise of the health-conscious consumer has also led to the growth of better-for-you alcoholic beverages over the past few years. And the pandemic has made consumers even more focused on health and wellness, further accelerating this shift toward moderated and healthier drinking. The first aspect of this trend is low and no alcohol. More than half of global consumers find the concept of alcoholic beverages with low or no alcohol to be appealing. The movement actually started in Europe and the UK around 2017 and grew in popularity here in the US around 2019, led primarily by millennials. Concepts like sober curious, mindful drinking, and dry January started popping up, and consumers began shifting their perceptions of drinking. So it's not something entirely new, but it's something that is still growing and incredibly relevant today. Consumers want more choices and they're willing to try new things, but they do not want to sacrifice taste or experience. So we're seeing these non and low alcoholic brands looking like spirits brands and sounding like spirits brands, whether it's through their packaging, utilizing more traditional looking spirits packaging, or brands like Seedlip that actually talk about bespoke distilling processes for each of their ingredients, really trying to sound like a spirits brand. A rise in avoidance behavior also has consumers looking to reduce their intake of things like sugar, carbohydrates, and calories, which are perceived as unhealthy and negative. We've seen this with the decline of things like sugary sodas, as well as the growth of new diets like low carb and plant-based. And it's expanding into spirits. Grey Goose is a great example. They just launched their Essence brand late last year, which has zero sugar or calories, really targeting that health-conscious consumer. And the last aspect of the better for you spirits trend are those with added functional benefits. We know that consumers are taking a more holistic view of their health and looking for products with added benefits that help mental, emotional, and physical health. The functional beverages started with soft drinks and fortified waters and products with added vitamins and immune boosting ingredients. If you think about the rise of kombucha and CBD-based beverages, that really ties closely to this trend. And these functional benefits are now making their way into the spirit space. So there's a lot of different things that brands can do to really address this growing need and desire from consumers to have alcoholic beverages that are a little bit healthier and better for them and that they can feel better about drinking. So that wraps up the 5 macro trends impacting the spirits category. As you can see, there are continuing effects from the pandemic, like e-commerce and home-based entertaining, as well as other societal factors like sustainability, personal expression, and health consciousness. Hopefully, you can find ways to leverage these trends to keep your brand relevant and impactful in an increasingly crowded marketplace. I'd like to turn it back to Rick now for some closing remarks.
Wow, thank you, Scott and Morris. So much good information, and I'm excited to see how distillers will incorporate these trends going forward. If you're looking for a partner to not only help reimagine your packaging and your brand, but to help grow your bottom line, well, Berlin Packaging is the company for you. If you need spirits packaging components such as bottles and closures, we are the one-stop shop for all your needs. We can source it, design it, stock it, and ship it. Scott Jose and his world-class team of designers and engineers can help you develop an entire spirits package from scratch or help to revamp your existing brand, all at no cost in exchange for packaging business. We also offer below-market financing on capital expenditure for things like capping machines or filling lines, all in an effort to help grow your bottom line. With the industry's only dedicated quality service division, our glass experts have 100+ years working directly with our 1,700+ global manufacturing partners to ensure the highest standards are met. And as one of the largest importers of glass bottles into the US, no one has a larger variety of options to choose from. And finally, our anything is possible culture and our dedication to customer thrill drives us, and we are all dedicated to your financial success. Thanks again for participating today, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.